We often walk through life without realizing the weight we carry. Invisible chains link us to moments that are long gone, and yet they still shape how we think, feel, and act today. These chains can take the form of memories, both sweet and bitter, of mistakes we wish we could undo, of opportunities we let slip by, of words spoken in anger, and of moments we wish had turned out differently. In the mind of the Stoics, this clinging to the past is one of the greatest obstacles to living fully. The essence of their teaching is not that we should ignore the past, but that we must learn to hold it lightly. It has already played its role. The stage has shifted. The curtain on those moments has already fallen. To give them more power than they deserve is to sacrifice the only reality we truly possess, the present moment. The Stoics understood the human tendency to dwell on what has already happened. Our minds have a peculiar habit of replaying events over and over, like a scratched record. We rehearse conversations we cannot redo. We imagine alternative outcomes for events that are fixed in history. In this constant mental rewinding, we often find ourselves trapped in regret, guilt, or nostalgia. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself each morning that the past was beyond his control and that no amount of thought could ever alter it. He believed that focusing on it too intently was not only unproductive, but also damaging to the soul. The idea of detaching from the past does not mean erasing it from memory. The past has value. It teaches, shapes, and offers lessons for the future. However, the Stoic approach is to extract wisdom without allowing emotion to bind us. Think of the past like a book you have read. You may remember the plot, the characters, the lessons in its pages, but you do not attempt to rewrite it or pretend the ending could be different. You close the book, place it on the shelf, and return to the story you are living now. When we dwell too much on past pain, we inadvertently give it new life. A wound that has long healed in reality may still bleed in our minds because we revisit it daily. The Stoics would say that the pain itself is not the main cause of suffering. The suffering comes from our attachment to that pain, from our refusal to let it rest in the past where it belongs. In this way, living in the present requires an act of courage, the courage to release what no longer serves us, even if it feels familiar. Similarly, clinging to past successes can be just as limiting. Achievements can inspire us, but they can also trap us in a golden memory we try to relive. If we define ourselves solely by what we once accomplished, we may stop striving for growth, convinced that our best days are behind us. The Stoics warn against such thinking. They urge us to measure our lives not by the peaks we once reached, but by the effort and integrity we bring to the present moment. The past, whether marked by triumph or failure, is not our home. Our home is here now, in the unfolding moment before us. Living in the present is an act of discipline. Our minds naturally drift backward into the past, forward into the future, rarely resting where life actually happens. The Stoics trained themselves daily to return their attention to the present, because they understood that this was the only time they could truly act. They viewed time as a river. The water that is past is gone forever. The water that is yet to come is unknown. But the water flowing beneath your feet right now is yours to engage with. To live in the present is to step fully into that flowing current. Detachment from the past is not coldness or emotional numbness. It is freedom. It means that we are no longer enslaved by what cannot be changed. It allows us to engage with life from a place of clarity, not clouded by regret or longing. This freedom gives us the mental space to respond to the present with wisdom, rather than reacting based on old wounds or outdated beliefs. The Stoics did not deny the emotional pull of the past. They simply refused to give it authority over the present moment. One practical way they achieved this was through reflection, not rumination. Reflection is active, it seeks understanding, draws conclusions, and then moves on. Rumination is passive, it circles endlessly, feeding on itself without producing growth. For the Stoic, the key is to look back only long enough to learn, and then to return attention to the present where choices can still be made. Epictetus would tell his students that we cannot control what has already happened, but we can control how we interpret it and what we do next. This is the heart of detachment. There is also a humility in this way of living. To let go of the past is to admit that we are not all powerful, that we cannot bend time to our will. It is a recognition that the universe moves on with or without our consent. Rather than fighting this truth, the Stoic embraces it. They see the present moment as a gift, fleeting, delicate, and worthy of full attention. When we allow the past to dominate our thoughts, we turn away from this gift, failing to see the opportunities unfolding in front of us. Modern life gives us countless triggers to dwell on the past. Social media memories resurface old photos. Reminders of events pop up on our screens, and conversations with friends or family can reopen chapters we thought were closed. The Stoic practice in the face of these reminders is to acknowledge them without becoming entangled. A memory may appear, but we decide whether to feed it or simply let it pass through the mind like a cloud drifting across the sky. The discipline of presence also involves paying attention to what is here now. Our senses, sight, sound, touch, taste, smell are gateways into the present moment. The Stoics valued this grounded awareness because it keeps the mind anchored. When we truly notice the warmth of the sun on our skin, the sound of leaves rustling in the wind, or the voice of someone speaking to us, we are less likely to be swept away into the past. This is not escapism. It is a conscious choice to engage with reality as it unfolds. In truth, every moment we spend trapped in the past is a moment we lose in the present. The mind cannot fully live in two places at once. The Stoics teach us that the quality of our lives depends on where we place our attention. To dwell on what is gone is to miss what is here. To miss what is here is to let life pass by unnoticed. Detachment is not abandonment of memory, but the recognition that life is a continuous unfolding, and we must meet it as it comes. Living in the present means awakening to the reality of now, stepping fully into the space where life is happening rather than being lost in imagined timelines that either no longer exist or have not yet arrived. It is an act of radical clarity to look at the world around you and recognize that this moment, this exact breath, is all that is real. The Stoics saw the present not as a vague concept, but as the very substance of existence. Everything else past and future exists only in the mind, as memory or anticipation. To live here, in this sliver of time, is to align ourselves with the truth of life itself. We often underestimate how much energy we lose to mental time travel. The mind slips backward into the past, replaying scenarios, analyzing decisions, wondering how things could have gone differently. Or it rushes forward into the future, imagining what might happen, constructing both hopeful and fearful narratives. Both habits can be exhausting. The Stoic discipline calls us back from these wanderings to what is actually within reach. The present moment is not a fragment between two greater realities. It is the only reality we will ever touch. Regret lives in the past, fear lives in the future, but peace lives in the present. This is why the Stoics gave such importance to presence. They observed that people suffer less from events themselves than from the stories they tell about those events. We imagine chains of cause and effect, predicting how today's actions will lead to tomorrow's hardships, or how yesterday's mistakes have doomed us. But these are mental constructs, not the thing itself. The only thing that truly exists is what is in front of us right now. When we engage with that directly, without layering it with fears and regrets, we find a sense of steadiness that cannot be shaken by what has already passed or by what might yet come. The present moment is not always comfortable. It can be filled with challenges, uncertainty, or even pain. But the Stoics believed that even discomfort, when faced directly, is far easier to bear than the imagined weight of what has not yet happened, or the lingering bitterness of what has already ended. To live in the present is to confront reality on its own terms, without adding the burden of imagined futures or resurrected pasts. The mind might tell us that we need to solve every possible future problem in advance. But the Stoic approach reminds us that we only ever need to deal with the problem in front of us, when it actually arrives. This philosophy calls for deliberate practice. It is not enough to say we will live in the present. We must train the mind to return there again and again. The Stoics used techniques such as mindfulness of breath, awareness of their surroundings, and conscious attention to whatever task was at hand. Marcus Aurelius, in his private writings, reminded himself constantly to focus only on what lay before him and to let go of distraction. The idea was simple. When the mind is anchored to the task in front of it, anxiety has less room to grow. When we fail to live in the present, we often live in resistance to reality. We resist what has happened, wishing it were otherwise. We resist what is happening, hoping it would change, or we resist what might happen, fearing it before it even arrives. All this resistance creates tension, frustration, and a sense of being out of step with life. By contrast, the Stoic approach is to work with what is, not against it. This does not mean passive acceptance of injustice or wrongdoing. Rather, it means facing reality as it is before deciding how to act. Presence sharpens perception, and perception is the foundation of wise action. To live in the present also means accepting impermanence. Every moment is transient, slipping into the past as soon as it arrives. This can be a source of sadness if we cling too tightly, but for the Stoics, it was a reason to cherish each moment more deeply. Knowing that time will not wait for us encourages us to speak the kind word, to notice the beauty in the ordinary, to take the action we have been postponing. The present is fragile and fleeting, and precisely because of this, it is precious. Awareness of the present is not only a mental practice. It changes how we interact with others. When we are fully present with someone, we listen more deeply, we notice the subtleties of expression, we respond with greater care. The Stoics valued virtue above all, and virtue, in their view, could only be practiced in the present moment. We cannot be kind in the past. We cannot be just in the future. We can only embody these qualities now. This insight transforms presence from a mere personal habit into a moral responsibility. There is also a simplicity that comes with living in the present. When we are here, we do not have to hold in mind the tangled web of every past mistake or every possible future scenario. We only have to deal with the single, clear reality before us. This does not mean life becomes easy. Challenges will still arise, but it becomes lighter because we are no longer carrying the unnecessary weight of imagined burdens. The Stoics often compared this to a soldier carrying only what is needed for the day's march rather than the entire campaign. Many people resist presence because they fear it means losing their ambition or foresight. But Stoicism does not discourage planning for the future. It simply warns against living in it. Plans are made in the present and should be flexible enough to adjust as reality unfolds. The danger lies in placing our happiness entirely in a future outcome, for this robs the present of its worth. The Stoic chooses instead to find meaning in the process itself, in the act of striving toward the goal, rather than in the uncertain reward that lies ahead. When we truly inhabit the present, even simple experiences become richer. The act of drinking a cup of tea, walking in fresh air, or speaking with a friend takes on new depth when we are not simultaneously thinking about yesterday's arguments or tomorrow's deadlines. The mind is like a lens, and when it is focused on the present, the image of life becomes sharper, more vibrant. The Stoics would say that this is not a luxury but a necessity, for it is only when we see clearly that we can act wisely. Presence also builds resilience. When we face each moment as it comes, without dragging in the weight of other moments, we deal with challenges in manageable portions. A difficult conversation, a piece of bad news, a sudden change, these are easier to bear when we meet them as they arrive, not as part of an imagined avalanche of past and future troubles. The Stoics practiced this daily, reminding themselves that no event is unbearable when faced in its own time. What makes events unbearable is the mind's tendency to pile them together, multiplying their weight. To live in the present is to accept the truth that this moment is enough. It is not a waiting room for the real life that will begin later. It is not a holding space between what has happened and what will happen. It is the very place where life unfolds, the point where we can speak, act, choose, and be. We must remember that every breath we take is a gift that exists only once, never to be repeated in exactly the same way. Each inhale and exhale is part of the limited number of moments we are given, and it passes whether we acknowledge it or not. This awareness can be unsettling, but it can also be awakening. The Stoics saw it as a reason to live with greater attention and purpose. If time is a non-renewable resource, then the present moment is our most valuable possession. Right now is a blank canvas, and every choice we make is a brushstroke upon it. The question is whether those brushstrokes are made with intention, or whether they are made in distraction, guided by habits of dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. When we spend our days looking backward, fixating on past decisions, replaying old conversations, and indulging in what-ifs, we surrender the chance to shape the present. The same is true when we are lost in the future, imagining outcomes, worrying about what might go wrong, or daydreaming about what might go right without taking action in the here and now. In either case, we are painting over the canvas of today with the shadows of other times. The Stoic philosophy urges us to return our attention to the only place where our actions matter this moment before us. The idea of the present as a canvas is more than a metaphor. It is a reminder that life is a work of creation. Every action, however small, adds to the overall picture of our lives. To ignore the present is to paint blindly, leaving the outcome to chance. When we are conscious of the present, our brushstrokes become deliberate. We choose our words with care. We act in alignment with our values. We notice the opportunities that might otherwise pass us by. The Stoics were deeply aware of the impermanence of all things. Marcus Aurelius reflected often on how even the greatest of human achievements would eventually fade, how time would erase names and deeds, and how the world would move on. This was not meant to inspire despair, but humility. If everything passes, then clinging to the past is futile, and postponing our lives for a perfect future is equally unwise. The only reasonable response is to live fully now, to give the present moment the dignity it deserves. In practice, this means acting today on the things we know matter. If there are kind words we have been holding back, we speak them. If there are meaningful actions we have been postponing, we take them. We stop waiting for some ideal alignment of circumstances that may never come. The Stoics remind us that conditions will never be perfect and that life does not pause while we prepare to live it. The best time to live with virtue, to practice courage, to extend kindness is always now. Anchoring ourselves in the present also requires a certain courage, the courage to stop hiding in the safety of what has already happened or what might happen. The past is safe in the sense that it is fixed. It cannot surprise us. The future is safe in the sense that it is still imaginary. We can make it as perfect as we like in our minds, but the present is real, unpredictable, and alive. It asks us to engage, to decide, to take responsibility. This is why many avoid it without realizing they are doing so. The Stoic discipline is to stay here anyway, to meet life as it comes, to resist the pull of times that are not our own. The present moment is where we also find clarity. Without the noise of past regrets or future fears, our minds become sharper. We see people as they are, situations as they are, and ourselves as we are. This clarity allows us to act with greater integrity. The Stoics placed great emphasis on living in accordance with nature, which for them meant living rationally, justly, and in harmony with reality. Such a life can only be lived in the present, because reality is always now. One of the subtle dangers of neglecting the present is that it often happens in small, unnoticed ways. We tell ourselves that we are only thinking about the past for a moment, only worrying about the future briefly. But these moments accumulate, and before long they shape the tone of our lives. We might look back on years spent in distraction and wonder where the time went. The Stoic answer is that the time was always here, but our attention was elsewhere. This is why they trained themselves constantly to return to now, no matter how many times the mind wandered. Being present does not mean ignoring the past or the future entirely. The past offers lessons. The future requires preparation. But these are secondary to the act of living now. We learn from the past by extracting its wisdom, then we release it. We plan for the future by making thoughtful decisions in the present. Then we let go of the illusion that we can control what is to come. In this way, past and future both serve the present rather than stealing from it. When we view life in this way, even the smallest actions take on meaning. Drinking a glass of water, greeting a stranger, taking a breath before speaking, these become acts of presence, moments in which we are fully alive. The Stoics valued this level of awareness not as a luxury, but as an essential part of living well. They understood that life is not made only of grand events, but of countless small moments, each with the potential to be lived with intention. There is also an element of gratitude in living in the present. When we see each moment as a gift that exists only once, we become less likely to waste it. Gratitude shifts our attention from what is missing to what is here, from what might be to what is. The Stoics practiced this by reflecting daily on the simple blessings they enjoyed: health, friendship, the ability to think and act, and by remembering that these could be taken away at any time. This was not meant to breed fear, but appreciation. In a world that constantly pulls us out of the present, with endless reminders of the past and constant speculation about the future, choosing to be here now is a form of resistance. It is a quiet rebellion against the forces that would have us live anywhere but in the moment we actually inhabit. The Stoics practiced this rebellion daily, not with anger or force, but with calm attention and steady discipline. When we master the art of living in the present, the quality of our lives changes in ways that are subtle but profound. We respond to challenges more thoughtfully. We enjoy our relationships more deeply. We see opportunities that might have gone unnoticed. We stop living as if life is somewhere else and realize it has always been here, waiting for us to show up fully.